Mary, are we ready to go?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Next is the Fiscal Policy and Planning Committee. I've asked Commissioner Litt to convene the committee, and Commissioner Cruz is attending via Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Greeno Shire. I now convene the meeting of the Fiscal Policy and Planning Committee. The meeting has one item before it today. Item 3A is an update on the governor's proposed 2026-27 budget. It's an information item. Jonathan Howard will present this item. Mr. Howard, will you please begin?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I am here to present an update regarding the governor's proposed 2026-27 budget. January 9th, the governor submitted his proposed budget for fiscal year 2026-27 to the legislature. In his 2026-27 budget, the governor's proposed the following for the commission: $44.7 million to the Commission for State Operations. $34 million of this comes from the Teacher Credential Fund. $10.5 million comes from the General Fund, and $435,000 in reimbursements. This budget authorizes 232.9 staff positions for the commission, up from 206.9 in last year's budget. In addition to these general provisions, the governor has proposed the following to address the commission's increased workload: 132,001 position to support our grant program within the Division of Standards Accreditation and Workforce Investment, 201,001 position to support the commission's educator assignment monitoring work, 180,001 position for ongoing information technology operations, 156,001 position for fiscal and business services for increased accounting workload related to grant work, 1.5 million and 11 positions to support the Division of Licensure Enforcement's increased workload and caseload, and a total of 1.7 million and 12 positions to implement work related to the enactment of SB 848 and AB 606. Finally, the governor's budget proposes an additional 250 million of 98 funds to continue supporting the teacher residency grant program. As of now, the legislature has begun holding their budget overview hearings, and these will continue throughout the first half of the year. In May, the governor will release a revised budget, and then the legislature will have until June 15th to pass the budget. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. This isn't my normal bailiwick.
Is that it, Mr. Howard?
Yes.
We'll now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raised hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording Secretary, are there any public comment?
Will Brian Monroy, will you please unmute your microphone and share your comment?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Brian Monroy. I'm the California Policy Manager with Teach Plus. We want to thank you for your hard work in developing the budget proposal and your transparent explanation of the various requests submitted to the Department of Finance reflected in the governor's January proposal. Teach Plus teachers recognize the importance of adequate funding and organizational capacity needed to carry out the Commission's numerous important functions and are excited to see a proposed expansion for both funding and personnel. Teach Plus teachers also see real potential in the governance shifts proposed by the governor. While we appreciate the attempt to create a more coherent system of support and accountability, we hope that the insights and expertise cultivated at the Commission will be taken into account as the proposal is refined in the coming weeks. Furthermore, we hope that educators' voices are also included in the process, as they have unique insights into what it takes to fully realize policy into practice. This proposal represents an important opportunity to implement recommendations from the statewide Educator Collaborative and WESED's 2025 Strategic Framework for clearer coordination and oversight of the educator workforce. We look forward to continuing to collaborate with the Commission, and thank you for your time.
We have no additional requests for public comment.
Seeing no additional requests for comment, the public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Francois?
It's just a question. I know that we've talked a lot at this table about research, evaluation, and data. And I noticed that for the Safe Schools Act, that there's gonna an ask is included in the budget. And I'm wondering if there was an ask around research and evaluation and broader data sharing. And what the rationale either way was.
Not yet a proposal to expand the work of our Division of Research, Evaluation and Assessment this year. It's coming together. We moved staff from within the organization and we're looking at what our needs are going forward. That doesn't mean we won't put one in at some point, but this year, yeah, we focused a lot on the legislation that was moving into our work plan. And that's where we were focusing for this.
I know how intense research and evaluation and looking at data closely. And I mean, the staff does an amazing job every time we come here. They did an amazing job this morning to make sure that that office, whenever possible, is as well funded as it can possibly.
We appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Comments from any other commissioners?
The governor's revenue forecast was a little more optimistic than that from the legislative analyst, if I recall correctly. In the event that they need to scale back on the additional funding they proposed for the commission, we know if they're going to be in contact with us as to what, in terms of prioritizing the programs.
Typically, there would be. And in truth, I suspect that we've got the budget table here. What would be at risk is the proposed 10.5 million in general fund. As the teacher credential fund, that's not included in the budget projections for the state. So whether they would shift that funding to a different source, scale it in a different way. We wait to see the May revise.
Yeah. That
always sheds more light or realistic revenue for all of us. So.
Commissioner Smith?
Friends in CSEA and SEIU have expressed some concerns around SB 848. Do we anticipate any kind of modifications in that?
So I'm not privy to the conversations that the author is having with those groups, but I do know that they are in conversations. Follow-up legislation to clarify multiple aspects of that bill.
Because the things, at least that I'm hearing, are kind of expensive in terms of like appeal processes and things like that. Do you think that at 1.5 million is going to be enough?
As the legislation is written now, any appeals process doesn't happen here at the commission. It happens at the local level. So this 1.5 million is purely for the staff at the commission.
But if the bill is, if they reopen the bill,
Yeah, they reopen
Clean
the
up.
bill.
we will watch every move they make very carefully, and if there's
And-
costs, we'll put in.
And the author's office has been pretty good at keeping us up to date on what's going on. They have reached out and asked, and they continue to ask as, we explore what it currently looks like, and they let us know that they are in talks with other interest holders in it.
There's any other questions or comments? Seeing none, this is an information and action. And no action is needed. So thank you, Mr. Howard, for the update. And this concludes the business before the Fiscal Policy Committee. He is now adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Litt. Next is the Educator Preparation Committee. Commissioner Danette Brown, will you please convene the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to call the February 2026 meeting of the Educator Preparation Committee to order. We have 3 items on the agenda, and all of those items are scheduled for today. The first item for today is 4A. Annual reports to the legislature on the 2021 Computer Science Supplementary Authorization Incentive Grant Program, the 2022 Reading and Literacy Supplementary Authorization Incentive Grant Program, and an update for the commission on the 2023 Diverse Education Leaders Pipeline Initiative Program. This item is being presented by Jasmine Nasser and Sarah Solari Colombini. This is an information action item. Ms. Solari Colombini, will you please begin?
Sure. We like long grant names, right? Okay, so good afternoon. Hopefully everyone had a nice lunch. We are pleased to be here today to present an agenda item. I will be sharing the 2 required annual reports to the legislature, and on the ones that on the 2021 Computer Science Supplementary Authorization Incentive Grant Program. And the second one is the 2022 Reading and Authorization Incentive Grant Program. And Jasmine will be sharing an update on the 2023 Diverse Education Leaders Pipeline Initiative Program, or WELPI. So this item does fulfill statutory reporting requirements and provides the commission with an overview of program implementation, participant outcomes, and key findings from the most recent year. The recommended action before you today is to approve the annual reports for computer science and the Reading and Literacy Grant Program for transmittal to the legislature by April 1st, 2026. Okay, so we prepared a little PowerPoint just to kind of put some data and just like snippets of data for you. You have the full report, obviously, in the agenda item, but we thought we'd highlight some key findings. So we'll start with the 2021 Computer Science Supplementary Authorization Incentive Grant Program. This program was established with a $15 million one-time appropriation to support credentialed teachers in obtaining a supplementary authorization in computer science, with the goal of expanding access to high-quality computer science instruction, particularly in rural schools and schools serving high numbers of unduplicated pupils. As of December 2025, the Commission has awarded approximately $2.9 million to 20 local educational agencies across 8 rounds of funding. This is providing funding to support over 1,100 teachers over the life of the grant. This number will slightly increase to just over 3 million next month because in this just last round of funding, which ended at the end of January, we now have 4 more LEAs who are funded. So we have a total of 24 LEAs in the 9th round of funding. Good news, 90% of the candidates who are currently receiving funds do serve in schools with a high unduplicated counts, and we had 150 completers in the 24-25 year. So overall, data from the 24-25 fiscal year do show strong enrollment rates, increasing numbers of completers, meaningful instructional impact, including the addition of new computer science courses and expanded integrated and after-school offerings. So while recruitment and matching fund requirements continue to present some challenges for some LEAs, grantees do consistently report that the program is helping address long-standing gaps in access to computer science. 2022 Reading and Literacy Supplementary Authorization Incentive Grant Program. It's about to become a bigger mouthful, but that'll be the next slide. We'll stay focused on reading and literacy for right now. So this program was funded also with a one-time $15 million appropriation to support teachers in earning reading and literacy authorizations. As of December of 2025, 10 LEAs have been awarded grants totaling approximately $4.5 million, which provides funding to support over 1,219 participants. The RFAs for the next round of funding are actually due tomorrow, February 13th. And so that's the 7th round of funding. And during the 24-25 year, grantees did fill almost 80% of their requested slots. There were 138 completers. the 24-25 fiscal year. So another good news slide. So LEAs do report clear improvements in instructional practices and student literacy outcomes, particularly in the elementary and the self-contained ones. All right, so I kind of foreshadowed that this would become a bigger mouthful, so we're moving on to the next slide. Okay, there we go. As of July 1st, 2025, with the passage of AB 121, the 2022 Reading and Literacy Supplementary Authorization Program was revised and recast to include mathematics instructional added authorizations. So, in addition, so it not only just expanded that program to add math, but it also increased the award amount, $2,500 to $6,000 per candidate. And it removed the one-to-one match, and it's now a 1/3 match. So $2,000 for every 6,000 that a grantee receives. In addition, the program was extended an additional 3 years. So it now ends June 30th of 2030. So we're anticipating more applicants with these changes. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jasmine so she can share an update to the Delphi program.
Yes. So finally, this item includes an update on the 2023 Diverse Education Leaders Pipeline Initiative, also known as Delpi. Delpi was established with a $10 million appropriation to train, place, and retain diverse and culturally responsive school administrators. In its first year of implementation, 9 LEAs launched programs supporting over 100 administrator candidates with enrollment rates exceeding 97%. During the 24-25 fiscal year, 8 candidates earned a preliminary administrative services credential. Because candidates are enrolled in different programs with varying completion timelines, many candidates are expected to earn their credential outside of the 24-25 reporting window and will be captured in future reporting cycles. Early findings also highlight strong partnerships with institutions of higher education and nonprofit organizations, a highly diverse candidate pool, and promising early outcomes aligned with the program's statutory goals. This portion of the item is informational and does not require commission action.
Okay, so in closing, staff recommends that the commission approve the 2026 annual reports to the legislature for computer science and for the Reading and Literacy Grant Program, transmittal by April 1st of 2026. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to make a comment, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Ms. McLean Rosansky, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm McLean Rosansky with the Alameda County Office of Education, or ACOE. We thank staff for their presentation and the Commission for their attention to these critical grant programs. Building an education workforce that is representative of our diverse state is critical to ensuring more equitable education outcomes for all of California's youth. The Legislature's investment in the Diverse Education Leaders Pipeline Initiative grant program advances efforts to diversify and strengthen California's TK-12 educator to administrator pipeline. ACOE has implemented much-needed teacher pathway programs to address staffing shortages in our districts. We make our entry-level and professional advancement programs accessible to all community members in recognition of the need for a more representative workforce at every level. We ask you to support additional and ongoing funding for the Diverse Education Leaders Pipeline Initiative grant program so that as a state, we can continue to diversify school leadership. Making this grant program a legacy grant program would ensure the long-term sustainability and statewide impact well into the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Delia Estrada, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good afternoon, Executive Director Sandy, Chair Gernach Shire, and Commissioners. My name is Delia Estrada, and I serve as the Administrative Coordinator for the Los Angeles Preliminary Administrative Services Credential, La Paz program. I work closely with Dr. Marco Nava, who oversees induction and credentialing programs at LA Unified School District, and Pat Pernin, Director of the Intern Credentialing and Added Authorization Programs. We would like to express our sincere appreciation to the Commission staff for their leadership and support in making the RLA and the Delphi grant program successful. We are grateful for the opportunity to briefly share LAUSD's experience and the impact that the Delphi grant has had on our candidates. The Delphi grant has enabled LAUSD to make meaningful progress in diversifying the leadership pipeline in a district where approximately 90% of students identify as non-white. Through this funding, we've been able to intentionally recruit and support aspiring leaders who reflect the rich diversity of the communities we serve. The grant has allowed us to provide full-time, highly trained coaches who support candidates in meeting the rigorous California administrative performance expectations. Through this coaching, candidates develop essential leadership skills such as instructional coaching, team leadership, data-driven inquiry, and school improvement planning, skills that are critical for effective leadership in a large, complex urban district like LAUSD. As a result of this comprehensive support, we are proud to report that 100% completion rate and 100% CalIPA passing rate across all demographic groups. Our candidates are not only meeting the standards, they are exceeding them. Please, we ask for your continued support in programs such as Delphi, and it will allow us to continue to sustain this progress and continue preparing the diverse, highly effective school leaders to meet the needs of California students. Thank you for your time and continued partnership.
Laura McGowan Robinson, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Laura McGowan Robinson. I'm founder and CEO of Diversity and Leadership Institute, or DLI. We're a 501c3 statewide nonprofit dedicated to building and sustaining pipelines for diverse TK through 12 school leadership since 2019. I'm here today not only because we serve as a partner to 3 Delphi grantees, but to emphasize that Delphi is a proven investment in the development of a more diverse and culturally responsive educator workforce. We thank the Commission and staff for sharing such compelling data in its recent report on Delphi and for recognizing the impact of this program. I want to take a few moments to highlight some of the early outcomes across the state. As you know, the Delphi grant program is fully subscribed, with grantees achieving 97% or more enrollment rate in year 1. For DLI and our Southern and Northern California grantee partners, administrator candidates achieved a 100% passage rate on the California Administrator Performance Assessment. And on the whole, Delphi grantee partners have seen significant increases in the diversity of their administrator candidate pools. This is measurable progress. Educators are staying, advancing, and leading because Delphi invests in systems that support them and their professional growth. Not only that, but research shows all students benefit academically and socially from diverse educators and leaders, and Delphi is helping schools create culturally responsive leadership that is improving outcomes now. We're grateful for the Commission's leadership in administering Delphi and providing such thorough updates on the program's impact, and ask for your support in the ongoing funding of this program. Thank you so much.
Erin Dover, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Thank you, Commission. My name is Dr. Aaron Dover, and I serve as the Project Director of Educational Leadership Programs at the Los Angeles County Office of Education. I oversee both preliminary administrative credentialing as well as clear induction administrative credentialing programs. And I'm happy to speak to the impact of the Delphi grant and share the significant successes of its implementation within the Los Angeles County. I want to thank the Commission for all the great work in helping LEAs carry out the grant. The monthly Zoom calls, resources have been extremely helpful for us program administrators to ensure that we're ensuring compliance with grant requirements. Through Delphi, LACO was awarded 44 spots over the life of the grant. Thus far, along with our educational partners, the Diversity and Leadership Institute. We have successfully launched and just completed our first cohort of 11 preliminary administrative credential candidates and have since started our second cohort of 15. And then we are set to host 18 in our final cohort. This milestone reflects both the strength of the program's design and the urgent need it addresses across our county. The Delphi grant has enabled LACO to offer high-quality administrative credential pathways a pathway that is intentionally focused on developing and uplifting leaders of color, an effort that is essential to building the leadership that more accurately reflects and serves our diverse student population. One of our most impactful elements of the Delphi program is the removal of financial barriers that often prevent aspiring leaders from pursuing their credential. By eliminating the cost, we have been able to expand access to leadership development and play a critical role in diversifying the pipeline throughout the Los Angeles County. Our candidates are supported through robust coaching, mentors, and teachers, and this has led to the support of the first year of our program. So thank you so much.
The chair, members of the commission and staff, Steve McDougall of CFT, a union of educators and classified professionals. I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate the work that's been done regarding this agenda item, but it's specifically the Delphi work. It is clear data shows that students tend to be more engaged, access the curriculum much easier, or with relative ease, I guess, when they have an educator in front of them that comes from the same community that they do and look like them. And imagine a world where education leaders on campuses and districts come from the same communities as well. And we like direction this work is taking. We certainly don't want to get in the way of it. We want it to continue. And we just want to pause to recognize that and say thank you for your efforts. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening.
Henderson.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff. I want to thank you for the opportunity to make this public comment. My name is Dr. Ronnie Henderson. I serve as the director for the Center for Administrative Preparation, Riverside County Office of Education. RCOE is a proud Delphi Consortium grantee in partnership with 6 neighboring districts, and together we are intentionally building a stronger and more representative leadership pipeline across our region. Through Delphi, RCOE is currently serving 34 diverse administrative candidates. To date, 13 of those candidates have already earned their preliminary administrative services credential, and 3 are now currently employed in California public schools. The remaining 21 candidates are on track and scheduled to complete the preliminary administrative services credential program and earn their credentials as of May of 2026. Just as important are the stories behind these numbers. Many of our candidates have shared that without Delphi funding, they would not have been able to pursue administrative leadership due to financial hardships. Delphi directly addresses this challenge while maintaining rigorous expectations for leadership readiness. Delphi is not only about access, it's about quality preparation. Our candidates receive focused training and culturally responsive leadership practices, equipping them to lead diverse school communities in ways that benefit staff, students, families, and the broader community. At a time when California continues to face administrator shortage, particularly in underserved areas, Delphi is a proven, scalable solution. It grows leaders from within communities, prepares them to lead with equity and competence, and places them where they are most needed. I respectfully urge the commission and state leaders to continue to expand funding for Delphi. The impact is real, it's measurable, and it's already strengthening our TK leadership across California. So we thank you for the support. Dr.
Marco Nava.
Good afternoon, Executive Director Sandy, Chair Bruno Shire, and Commissioners. My name is Marco Nava, and I'm the Administrator of Induction and Credentialing Programs in the Los Angeles Unified School District. I'd like to take this opportunity to share a little bit about how the Computer Science Supplementary Authorization Grant has benefited our district and our students. We have been fortunate enough to receive 2 rounds of funding, one with our partners at UCLA and one with our partners at CSU Los Angeles. And in those programs, come June 2026, we would have authorized or recommended for authorization 135 teachers to receive that computer science supplementary authorization. And one, I don't know if it was an expected outcome of this grant, but one benefit was that we had several school teams that included school principals with their teachers attending. And when we have a nucleus of people with that computer science supplementary authorization, we know that that work moves forward a lot faster. So we're thankful for that. Looking ahead, we're very excited to see that and fully support the governor's proposed trailer bill language that increases the per participant allocation from $2,500 to $6,000 and reduces the grant match amount, much like we saw with the reading and literacy added authorization grant. By increasing the grant amount, we expect that LEAs and IHEs across the state will be better positioned with the resources they need to effectively support our teachers in working towards getting their CSSA. And I'd like to thank the commission for the continued investment in our educators. And I'd like to express my appreciation to Jasmine and Sarah for their consistent support and always making themselves always available to answer our questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Executive Director Sandy and Chair Bruno Shire and Commissioners. I am Patricia Pernin, Director of the Intern Credentialing and Added Authorization Program with Los Angeles Unified School District. I would like to express our appreciation to the Commission staff for all their hard work to make the RLAA grant program successful. We in LAUSD truly believe in providing highly qualified teachers who will ensure that we are closing the achievement gap in reading and literacy. In our program over the past 6 years, we have provided the RLAA program to ensure that our students receive this support from highly qualified teachers. Not only have the teachers entered this program, but we've had administrators who have brought a team of teachers with them to the program to ensure that their school can do the work that makes the difference. As of today, there are 278 graduates, and this spring we will have an additional 70 who will be culminating in June. Our graduates attest to the depth of the learning and the impact they are making in their work. Lisa Marks, Program Specialist, Special Education Operations, indicated that the program has deepened her understanding of the characteristics of students with reading disabilities, including the nature of dyslexia and other related challenges. Hamilton Gernon Wyatt, 4th grade teacher. I have been able to set specific and targeted goals for my diverse learners, especially my emergent bilinguals. I have seen students that were once shy and reserved grow into enthusiastic contributors in our classroom conversations. The RLAA program has profoundly impacted the way I support my students and grow as an educator. A new priority in our district is that we have elementary and secondary interventionists who will be able to diagnose and provide individualized reading intervention to our students. This newest grant will ensure that we are able to move in the direction that we want to. Through this grant, we will be able to service 70 candidates a year. And the next 3 years, we will increase it to 210 candidates. Again, I want to thank you so much for this opportunity, and the district wants to thank you for this fully serving us in this whole area of reading and literacy specialists with the intent to meet the needs of all of our children. Thank you.
Jessica Sacco.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jessica Sacco on behalf of Children Now. I'll start by talking about the Delphi grant program. We are certainly very excited about this program, and as an organization who has long championed and strived for the diversification of our educator workforce, we have grown to deeply understand the role that a diverse administrator community has in impacting and moving the needle in that area. We would urge the Commission, if possible, to consider collaboration with the Department of Education to see if there's a way to incorporate cross-checking the data about the impact of this program. Have the administrators who've participated in this program at their schools, are we seeing improvement climate surveys for staff? Are we seeing increased retention rates amongst educators? Are we seeing improvements in academic achievement, absenteeism trends, and all the other things that we think, that research shows that it would be great if we could see the extended impact of this program beyond the numbers that are in this report, because I think, as has been testified by those who have already commented and worked in this program, this is a program that will have lasting impact through many years. As leader of the California STEM Network and as a member of the CS for CA Coalition, that's Computer Science for California, certainly very excited by the governor's budget proposal to really bolster the computer science supplementary authorization and provide for extended time. I think the Commission does a great job with its grant programs, and this was one where it's nice to see that in a way it became in alignment with the reading and literacy supplemental authorization. So certainly excited and hope that the Commission will support the continuation of that grant as well as additional funding for the Delphi program. Thank you.
We have no other requests for public comment.
Thank you. Okay, the public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item?
Looking through the description and some of the challenges that the grantees have said that they had, I'm just curious, do we have a training assistance, technical assistance process for the grantees when they're help them work with some of these challenges?
Yes, so we offer monthly office hours to each individual grant, which are times for them to come and bring their problems of practice. In addition, in our signature line to all of our emails, people typically reach out via email. We have a book a call with me, so they're able to book individual appointments with us throughout the week. So it's pretty instant support. So yes.
Yeah. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Pomgre?
Just a quick question. How much funding do we have available subsequent cycles?
For which grant?
Both of them, the computer science and leads. So Delphi is all distributed.
Right, Delphi is all distributed. So computer science, the remaining amount is $11,967,000 roughly. And then for I don't have them memorized. Reading, we have now, keep in mind, funding closes. I mean, our RFA closes tomorrow. So, but as of today, there was $10,460,000.
And we have 3 years to spend it.
Okay, any other commissioners, either on Zoom or in person? Okay, seeing none, I would like to just take this opportunity to say thank you so much to Ms. Solari Colombini for this item and to Ms. Nasser for presenting this item. This is a lot of amazing information. And I also want to extend a thank you to our community to come and share the stories of how these grant programs are impacting teachers and students on the daily. That was really exciting to hear. So having said that, this is an information action item. Do I have a motion that the Commission approve the 2026 annual report to the Legislature for both the 2021 Computer Science Supplementary Authorization Incentive Grant Program and for the 2022 Reading Literacy Supplementary Authorization Incentive Grant Program for transmittal to the Legislature? Okay, I saw Commissioner Mancias first, and then I saw Commissioner Litt. Oh. And Michael De La Torre, hi. Sorry. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, will the recording secretary call for the vote? Aye.
Dennis.
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Marquita Bruno Shire,
Aye.
Lit,
Aye.
Ruben Mancias,
Aye.
Mandy Redfern,
Aye.
David Simmons, Richard Simpson, Mike Torres, Paul Newsoff,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you again, Ms. Nasser and Ms. Solari Colombini. Okay, moving on to our next item on the agenda, 4B, Revised Performance Assessment Design Standards. This item is being presented by Juliet Walleitner. This is an information action item. I can't get that up. And Dr. Walleitner, will you please begin when you're ready?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Can I be promoted to speaker so I can share my screen? There we go. Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. I am thrilled to be here presenting item 4B, Revised Performance Assessment Design Standards to you. I want to begin by just providing an overview of this presentation. I will first present an overview of the Performance Assessment Design Standards, just to give you a little background. Then I will remind you all of the specifications of SB 1263 before discussing the specifics of the Revised Performance Assessment Design Standards, or the PADS as we affectionately refer to them. And before I begin, before I fully begin, just a reminder, this is an information action item, and the recommended actions are that you review the revised PADS, provide feedback to us, and potentially approve the PADS for use in revising the existing TPAs or developing specifications for a new commission. So the Performance Assessment Design Standards were first approved by the Commission in 2006, around the same time that the Teaching Performance Assessment requirement was signed into law. And they are the standards to which all Commission-approved TPAs must demonstrate alignment in order to be considered for approval for operational use. Originally, there were just two standards. First was that the assessment needed to be designed for validity and fairness. And the second was that the assessment was designed for reliability and fairness. So in the 20 years since their original approval adoption, the PADS have been revised at a few different points in response to various policy shifts. The first revision occurred between 2014 and 2015 and was done to align the standards with the assessment design policies that were also adopted at that time. In addition to revising standards 1 and 2 to align with those policies, that set of revisions led to the development of standard 3, the requirements of model sponsors, which outlines supports to be provided to programs and candidates, as well as what information must be reported to candidates, programs, and the Commission. The next revision occurred following the revisions of the education specialist credential structure, which led to the requirement that all education specialist candidates must pass a TPA. So prior to that point, only multiple subject and single subject candidates had that TPA requirement. So at that time, Standard 1 was revised to include the specifications for what must be included in the TPAs designed for the different education specialist candidate or education specialist credentials. The next revision, or the next set of revisions, followed the passage of SB 488 and the creation of the PK3 Early Childhood Specialist Instruction Credential. As you likely recall, SB 488 required the elimination of the RECA to be replaced by a literacy performance assessment that would measure key areas of literacy instruction. Around the same time, the PK3 credential was created. So Standard 1 was revised yet again to include the required specifications for the LPA and the TPA was designed for PK3 candidates. And then there's our most recent policy shift, SB 1263, which was signed into law in September of 2024. As I'm sure you remember, SB 1263 called for the formation of a work group to review the design and implementation of the TPAs. The work group was charged with first determining the extent to which the TPAs are valid and authentic, formative in nature, embedded in preparation, and used to inform program improvement through the accreditation system. Based on their findings, the work group was then charged with developing a set of recommendations to inform revisions to the existing TPAs and TPA system. So the work group ultimately came up with 24 recommendations around 5 focal areas: modifications to current assessments, embedding in programs, accreditation support for embedding, local scoring, and the creation of a program completer survey. 7 of those 24 recommendations required specific changes to the performance assessment design standards. And then just a reminder of the SB 1263 timeline and where we are in that work. So the work group met September 24 through April 25. In June of last year, we brought the recommendations to the commission. In August, we brought an implementation plan that outlines different phases of work. And we are in that first phase here with those revised performance assessment design standards. So, moving on then to the specific recommendations that require changes to the performance assessment design standards. I'm just going to go through these quickly. The first recommendation was that the TPA tasks require candidates to demonstrate culturally responsive teaching practices and asset-based instruction that be explicitly named and integrated into the design. The second recommendation was around ensuring a streamlined assessment structure that would reduce duplication, include real-world scenarios, break submissions into smaller parts, also that rubrics and instructions would be integrated into the TPA platform. The third recommendation was around a flexible assessment design. This is really thinking about how the assessment is designed for candidates themselves, and so that the TPA needed to align with universal design for learning principles to ensure that candidates had multiple options for how to demonstrate their knowledge. Fourth recommendation was around aligned feedback. Specifically, that scorers would provide specific asset-based feedback aligned with the rubric for candidates, and that the score calibration would include deepening understanding of the content, context, and practices. And fifth recommendation was around the use of technical condition codes. As you might recall, the interim actions required the elimination of content-based condition codes, but this specifically talks about what happens when a candidate receives a technical condition code. So candidates would be notified within 1 week of their submission and given then the option to resubmit in the same time frame without incurring additional fees. Recommendation 6 refers to expanding program materials, really making sure that model sponsors are providing as many materials to support the embedding of the TPA in programs as possible.
This includes examples of passing submissions, examples of common condition code issues, samples of successful and unsuccessful work. And finally, the last recommendation is a standardized survey, or the creation of a standardized survey that would be integrated into every model sponsor submission process that would ask the candidates questions about their perceptions of the formative think-through of the TPA, the relevance of the TPA to their coursework, and their perceptions of its appropriateness as an assessment. So before moving into the specifics of the revised standards, I want to just briefly discuss the revision process that was used to revise the PADs. So first, an initial revision was done based on those 7 recommendations that I just talked through. That set of revised standards was then shared with the Commission's performance assessment and exams teams for their feedback. Based on that feedback, the standards were revised again before being shared with Commission leadership for their feedback. That feedback was again used to inform further revisions. That version of the draft standards was then shared with a subset of the RDI TPA workgroup, which included representation from K-12 and educator preparation programs situated in both IHEs and LEAs. They provided their feedback both in written form and through a focused discussion session. Their feedback was used to, once again, revise the standards. And that version of the standards is what I'll be discussing and what is included in Appendix A of this item. So moving on to the revised standards. I'm going to just talk through each of the 3 standards and highlight some of the key changes that were made. And again, the full set of the revised standards are included in the item itself. So standard 1, assessment design for validity and fairness. This standard begins with a set of general task specifications that must be included with all versions of within all versions of the TPA. This standard, or this part of the standard, was revised to require that both the tasks themselves and the design of the tasks incorporate culturally sustaining pedagogy and universal design for learning principles. The standard also includes credential-specific task specifications. These were not changed. The standard moves on to outline required scoring specifications. And this part of the standard was revised to require that the TPAs be scored analytically using analytic rubrics, which will then provide more specific feedback to candidates. The standard outlines the requirements for a bias review before moving on to the specific language on the types of condition codes that are allowed and not allowed. They specifically call out that content-based condition codes are not allowed. Technical condition codes issued for things like a wrong template being submitted or an unviewable video are still allowed, but they must be issued within a timely manner with the option created for candidates to resubmit within that same scoring window. And finally, standard 1 includes the requirement for standard settings. Standard 2 then lays out the requirements for designing the assessments for reliability and fairness. It begins with the requirements for field testing the TPA. It includes specific requirements for individuals who may assess the TPAs. This was, again, came up quite a bit actually within the RDI TPA workgroup. These individuals must be situated in California, must have experience and expertise in the credential areas of the TPA they are assessing. The standard also outlines both the calibration and recalibration requirements of assessors. And then within the discussion of scoring processes, additional language was added for programs that wish to implement the local scoring option. In particular, local scorers must participate in the same processes used to calibrate scorers that would be hired by a model sponsor. And then to try and provide some incentive for programs to engage in local scoring, added the provision that when a program chooses to engage in local scoring, any part of the registration or submission fees collected by the model sponsor to fund the scoring of the TPAs must be redirected to the programs to help offset costs incurred by utilizing the local scoring option.
Thinking behind that is if the model sponsor is not paying an assessor, then those funds should go to the program. Standard 2 also includes what must be included within a TPA's appeals and retakes policies, as well as the requirement to create and what must be included within a technical assistance manual. Finally, Standard 3 outlines the model support responsibility. Required supports for programs, they are not all listed on this slide, but they include resources to support the embedding of the assessments within program practices, including coursework and clinical practice, as well as materials to support orientations with faculty, clinical practice coaches, mentor teachers, and other program partners, and then ongoing assistance for programs and candidates. Required candidate supports, what's really important here is that there is the designation that these must be provided at no cost to candidates. And the supports are intended to support their understanding of the tasks themselves, the rubrics, and the submission processes. And then in terms of the score reporting requirement, standard outlines requirements for reporting scores to candidates, to programs, and to the commission. A significant change in the required reports to candidates, that if a submission is scored at a level 1 on any rubric construct, the candidate must be provided with specific feedback as to why it was scored a 1. Programs must be provided individual and aggregate results of their candidate submissions relative to the rubric constructs. Score reports must also include the number of submissions returned to candidates for condition codes. And then model sponsors must also provide individual and program level results to the commission, disaggregated by race, ethnicity, and gender. The standard itself includes a number of specifications of what must be submitted annually to the commission. Finally, Standard 3 does require model sponsors to include a survey completed by candidates at the time of submission that contains common items to address candidates' perception of the formative nature of the TPA, the alignment between the TPA and their required coursework, and the candidates' perceptions of the appropriateness of the TPA tasks for assessing their readiness to begin teaching. So with that, again, the recommendations for this item are that the commission review the revised PADs, provide any feedback, and potentially approve the revised PADs. Again, next steps are that model sponsors would revise their currently approved TPAs to align with the newly approved PADs, and commission staff would develop specifications for a new TPA for the commission. So, thank you. We'll welcome your feedback and questions.
Thank you. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to make a comment, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Steve McDougall, please come to the table and share your comment.
Through the chair, members of the commission and staff, want to say this is how it gets done. You know, someone made legislation and put this to work, right? And a work group was formed. Pulled up their sleeves. They were given the rules of the road by legislation, and sure enough, that's being folded into the work. And I'd be mistaken if I didn't want to just point out the incorporation of UDL. You had me at UDL. Actually in a process of trying to get some members trained to train our members throughout the state. If management's not going to do it, the union will, in UDL. So, but everything else, the train is moving. It's moving at the correct speed. And thank you for your work. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
No additional requests for public.
Okay. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Turn page. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Simpson.
I just wanted my naivete. What's a condition code?
Sorry, I should have defined that. So what has traditionally happened is when an assessor, there were a variety of condition codes. There were content-based condition codes and technical condition codes. Content-based condition codes were originally issued for things like a standard was missing. And so if an assessor is reviewing the submission and sees that that standard isn't included, then that submission would get kicked back to the candidate, and they would receive a condition code, which is essentially a code saying why it was kicked back.
Okay.
So sorry, that was a long-winded.
That's a response from somebody looking at their.
Yep.
application.
Yep.
They left out something.
Yep. Right.
Sure.
On the condition code, so if a condition code was kicked back to the candidate, it would be at no cost to the candidate to resubmit within the week deadline or so, right? Yeah, this assessment, I'm in the process of doing my TPA right now. It is a beast. I have not slept in quite a while, I will say. But it's a far hanging fruit because two, I know that I'm gonna pay $300 for this. So having this type of policy enacted where if I'm not able to meet the standards of the TPA and it gets kicked back to me, knowing that I won't be penalized financially is great to hear, definitely. $300 to me is about a weekend's worth of work on top of student teaching right now. So that is great to hear. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Palfrey?
He had mentioned he's taking he's in the middle of his. I really love what Steve McDougall said. This is how it's done, and we're seeing actual progress each time. So thank you so much. I am still a little fuzzy on this concept. Is it optional?
Yeah. It would still be an option.
Structured.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think we're still fuzzy on exactly, but we want to ensure that the provision is put into place that local scoring would be an option for programs. If a program determines that it wants to engage in local scoring, then the individuals from that program, they would have to meet the same qualifications as other assessors. They would have to be calibrated just like the other assessors. But try and encourage that process, we're saying funds that the model sponsor would get directed to the program to support that. I think we need to look at that a little bit more. And I'm not sure if that actually would, I don't know that that would belong in the performance assessment design standards themselves, but yeah.
So can I add just a little bit of history on this?
Yeah.
So the statute that created this was enacted in 1997, 1998. And for the first many years of performance assessment, it was all locally scored. And then faculty administered it locally within their clinical practice. They scored it, and that's how it happened. We got reports on scoring. But in 2015, Mission took action with the goal of strengthening calibration of scores so that we had a stronger kind of indicator at the program level and at the institutional level and across institutions to understand how candidates are performing against the standards and the performance expectations. So 2015 is when we moved to a centralized scoring system offered by a contractor who helped us build that system. But we maintained the local scoring option within these performance assessment design standards because the goal was not to remove scoring from faculty. Really, the best of all worlds is that this is happening locally. but many programs just pulled away from doing local scoring because of the calibration process and the kind of move toward the centralized scoring system. So I think that the goal we heard from the 1263 work group and from, folks all over the state was let's maintain both options without losing a strong sense of reliability in scoring, so that the candidates get a fair shake at this first and foremost, but also so that programs have reliable feedback on how their candidates are performing, and we, as the accrediting body, have reliable feedback about how candidates and how programs are doing in preparing their candidates. So it's but I think this is an area of finding the right balance and the sweet spot, and we haven't done that yet, because I don't think since we went to centralized scoring as the norm, I don't know of any programs that are doing local scoring any longer. And I think that's been an unintended consequence of moving to centralized scoring, was the kind of losing of touch in every real way. So, but yeah, so just a little history.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have questions? Yes, Commissioner.
Thanks, Commissioner Brown. Thanks for the report. I have a few thoughts and comments to offer, maybe at least one question. First, just some gratitude to the staff, to work group, the public, and to the commission for really engaging on this essential and important topic over a long period of time. It's really essential, I think, for us to continue to invest in a productive, meaningful, authentic performance assessment system, so that we can strengthen our educator workforce, increase public confidence, and most importantly, provide high quality educators right for the students they need it. So I think we collectively deserve some credit for rolling up our sleeves and leaning into this important work. I think broadly speaking, the big ideas that are embedded in this report and build off of the work group's efforts are really strong and positive advances. And I'm really eager and excited for where this will take us. I do have a few questions maybe underneath, because now we're sort of in that effort where big ideas turn into language that gets codified and regulated, and then that language has implications for how we do the work. So I'll just share a few puzzles maybe, or quibbles that arise for me as I read through this. The first one's maybe my one main question. I am curious, because I don't know if we've talked about this before throughout this process. We engaged at all with the current model sponsors. There's only a small number of them. Do we have any sense of their interest, enthusiasm, concerns about where we're headed? That been elevated yet anyway? I don't remember us talking.
So we do, as a performance assessment team, we do meet with the current model sponsors regularly, like weekly. So we have had some conversations around what's coming with the performance assessment design standards. Yeah, I don't know.
So let me just also add that the primary model sponsor with Cal State Fresno sponsors their own model, but the Ed TPA and the Cal TPA both share Pearson.
Yes.
The evaluation systems Pearson, and we are regularly in our commission, even as we speak. I think pay very close attention to all of this. In our recent annual meeting with them, they gave us a sense of all the things they're working on, which appeared to us as a team that they are paying attention to the developments around testing writ large, but performance assessment specific. So yes, they're aware, I would say, and they're, they certainly, they bring great psychometric expertise to all of this, and you want to meet the psychometric standards at the same time as you want something very authentic. And those things live in tension by time a lot. So yes, it's been an ongoing dialogue.
That's helpful. If it's not directly apparent, the orientation of my question, I just want to make sure that as we're doing this really thoughtful, significant work, we're bringing these potential partners along to make sure that we actually have partners to help build the systems that we're designing and ideating that the field needs. So that was the intention of the question. I trust that folks are engaged in that work, but I thought it was worth elevating. there are two language pieces to the draft as it's written, that at least, I think are at least worth thinking through, because they'll have implications for how we put this work in practice. The first is around the term embedded. And we use it in two different phrasings in the document, and I actually think the difference is significant. The original phrasing in the kind of charge to the work group is embedded in preparation. It's rather broad and non-descriptive. I actually think there's some advantages and value to that. Later on, it gets written as embedded in coursework and curriculum, which is more direct and narrow and prescriptive and could be interpreted to mean only in those forms. Say more, but maybe now is not the time. I think that there's potential problems with limiting the possible ways that our very wide and diverse educator prep program workforce does its work, and leaving them a wide range to navigate what is thoughtfully vetted in preparation might mean and look. So I think that's a thing we're considering. Similarly, the orientation of modularity, I appreciate the purposing there, which is to help make a TPA more manageable for both candidates and for programs. Also potentially, although I don't think it's written this way, to make it more developmentally oriented as we're thinking about developmental growth with the profession. There is some potential tension between modularity and authenticity. And I think I think, because we do use the word authentic in the document, we're not interested in a performance assessment that is not aligned with authentic practice teaching. And so if you break things apart too much, you get too far away from what we actually want to know that teachers are ready and able to do. And so I think that's another tension that sits there. My last note is maybe just a bit of a wish. I appreciate that we are embedding this notion of a survey to get feedback from candidates. Really valuable source of information for us. I think we might want to think more broadly. I hear all the time from our candidates who are in the midst of doing their work in the TPA, and it is a really good and valuable source of feedback. There may be other sources that we might want to hear from other than the folks who are immediately intensely embedded in the practice, thinking of an assessment. So that could include teacher educators, it could include employers, it could include mentors or cooperating teachers. Just get a wider sense of how folks think we're doing in terms as we're making this evolution to this really important effort.
Commissioner Erickson?
I just wanted to double check what I heard. I think I heard that there'll always be centralized scoring.
I think always is an option.
Okay, that was important to several of the universities just because programs would have to absorb that additional cost, and we weren't quite sure, and it will be more expensive than doing the centralized scoring for many of us. So, and then the second question I had, one of the recommendations was about culturally responsive pedagogy. So given our current climate and that EdTPA is national, some of the schools that were doing EdTPA were concerned that that might get lost in the...
Typically, EdTPA creates a California version.
Okay.
And they are, they are actually completely redesigning their performance assessment right now. And I have been in talks, as soon as this agenda item was posted, I sent it to protect there. So yeah, thank you.
The commissioners? Commissioner Redfern?
I just wanted to commend staff for the iterative process in getting to these recommendations today. From where you started, I really appreciated how you showed us that journey that happened. So thank you. And I also just wanted to elevate that I can see in these recommendations that the candidate experience is really the central focus. And these shifts will support those candidates. So thank you for all of your work.
Excellent. Any other commissioners on Zoom or in person?
I have one question, because I believe
Please.
the action that is recommended is that you provide feedback and possibly approve the assessment design standards. And Commissioner Litt, you raised some wonderful definitional things. I'd love to take a class with you sometime, just love the way you think, but you talked about the two different uses of the word being fairly general, and it's where it could be applied, and the other narrowing that. And I guess question for all of you as you consider possibly moving these forward, do you have a preference? If you specify that, that would be helpful. And I don't know whether there was anything else in the language usage that you thought could be clarified, and if so, we'd love to get your consensus on that.
Thoughts, anyone?
It was very convincing as to taking a broader embedded in the program or in, I think that's what you suggested. Let the programs decide where they want to.
I think we are comfortable with that. I think that as we hit the reset button here and open kind of a new set of standards to design towards, we will, as we always do, learn a lot about how that's interpreted in different texts. And I think that's been the brand. We've intended that to be the brand for performance assessment, that it is adaptable and retaining its authenticity. So, so are we comfortable moving to the more general usage?
More general usage of, yes, absolutely, of embedded.
Commissioner Sin?
Is there a glossary?
There is not a glossary. We talked about that. I tried to embed definitions within it, but add a glossary.
There's certainly
Very helpful in some documents that we've put together. A glossary is helpful.
there are glossaries in all of, I think, in all of our handbooks for performance assessments.
For
They're
the Cal TPA, yeah, they're extensive glossaries, like 20 pages long.
So, but there may be a way to moderate that. So we'll take.
Okay. This is an information action item. Do I have a motion that the commission approve the revised performance assessment design standards or direct staff to complete further revision? Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Redfern. Second. Commissioner Mancias, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Checking Zoom. Okay, seeing none, will the recording secretary call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
If you called me, aye.
Michael, can you hear me? Michael
No,
Dilatory.
we can't hear. I'm sorry. If you called me, I.
Okay.
Ira Led,
Aye.
Ruben Mancias, Randy Redfern,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Richard Simpson, Mike Torres, Fong Yusoff, Jean Carey.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wallinger. All right. Next item is 4C. This is our final item for the day. It is the Teaching Performance Assessment Pass Rate Identification Framework, Measures, Performance Bands, and Continuous Improvement Cycle. This item is being presented by Adam Ibrahim and Juliet Wallleitner. This is an information action item. Mr. Ibrahim, will you please begin when you're ready?
All right, technical issues.
we're having some technical issues, just like school. Why don't we take a 5-minute stretch break, bathroom break, and then we'll come back in 5 minutes and hear 4C.
Okay.
Well, which are student, no other trends. That's not all your rates.
These aren't you. I like the way Commissioner Pavry has her eyes on me. Going to elementary teacher, right? Commissioner Litt is ready. Commissioner Simpson is ready. Commissioner Erickson, I like how you have your eyes on me. Thank you. Quiet Coyote, I see you. See you in the back, Quiet Coyote.
I'm ready too, Commissioner.
Waterfall, sorry. That's a good one.
We're ready in Zoom.
Okay. Yes, I see you on Zoom. Thank you. Okay,
I feel like romper room.
Our final item for the day is 4C, the Teaching Performance Assessment Pass Rate Identification Framework, Measures, Performance Bands, and Continuous Improvement Cycle. This item is being presented by Adam Ibrahim and Juliet Wallleitner. This is an information action item. Mr. Ibrahim, will you please begin?
Thank you, and good afternoon to the commission chair, the committee chair, the executive director, and the committee, and everybody in the audience persevering with us today, and those of you online. I'd like to start this item with a confession. I think Dr. Wallleitner and I had too much fun doing this item. We are both continuous improvement nerds on a very, very deep level. And so I thought we'd start by sharing some of our background in the realm of accountability, continuous improvement, thoughtful design, all of those things. And Juliet, would you like to share your nerdom?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. So when I think about engagement and continuous improvement, I go back to my days as a high school English teacher. And I think about engaging in inquiry as a teacher and remember a moment looking at my students' essay scores and going, these aren't very good, but what's the common denominator in all of that? That's me, the teacher, right? And going through that process, just like what we're asking our candidates to do on the TPA. But then that carried through with me, right? Through the work that I did in research when I was in graduate school, and then the work I did in my role leading educator preparation and accreditation at Fresno State, where we would hosted an annual data summit where we brought together faculty, coaches, partners, mentor teachers to look together at data. The day started with our recent program completers sharing their experiences in the program, in the field, and that all became part of the data that then groups collectively looked at and then kind of identified areas of strength and areas for us to grow. And those became our focal points for improving the program over the next year. So,
And similarly, not similarly, differently, I would say, and complementary. I was part of the State Superintendent Tom Torlickson's task force for accountability and continuous improvement in the development of the accountability system that we currently have on the TK-12 side. And so concurrent with that, I was also part of the Stanford Scale Building Educator Assessment Literacy process to roll out the Smarter Balance assessments. And concurrent with that was working all over the state at a very deep level, helping educators translate those summative end-of-year assessments into formative and interim experiences that were authentic. More recently, when I was the director of LCAP, I promise I'm not reading my resume. It's relevant. When I was the director of LCAP and continuous improvement, San Juan Unified School District down the street, one of my tasks was to translate the new ESSA state plan into an accountability, but more importantly, continuous improvement framework for the district. And it was a moment that feels very much kind of like the moment that we have right now, where you have a set of laws, or you have laws or statutory regulations, and then you have a reality, and then you need to figure out, okay, how do we turn this accountability system into authentic engagement and continuous improvement on the ground? And so we did, in collaboration with the superintendent and with labor, and with even family and community members and end users, we developed a system for comprehensive support and improvement and targeted support and improvement that was based on inquiry, real inquiry. And it was also based on networked improvement communities. And how do we get learners in community together? And it just feels very much like the moment that we are here, where we have statutory guidance from Senate Bill 1263 in 44320.2D9 that says that we must do a thing. And now, and so this item is really about our initial ideas about how to do the thing in a way that puts the right drivers into play in the system. All right. So here is the thing we have to do from a state law perspective. The commission shall report the number of programs with low pass rates and assist these programs to use evidence-based strategies to support candidates to pass the assessment for all administrations of the assessment. And there shall be no fees to candidates for these instructional supplements. Right. So we have programs with low pass rates, and we have assistance, and we have persistence of assistance, if you will. And then we also have no fees. So just, this is our these are our general parameters. But then this is a different kind of an entity, right? We are a standards board. We are a standards board that has cousins in the Department of Consumer Affairs, where we assure quality, we assure sort of consumer protection, we do a lot of other things. And so quickly we started talking about, within this law, what is our responsibility, or what are our duties in this space? And I'm going to, modeling best practices, I'm going to read a slide to you. Kind of coming up with 3 questions. The first was, what is the public obligation of a licensure system to candidates who invest in preparation and to the students who depend on the quality of their preparation? We heard from our liaison, Joseph Morrison, about just how precious the costs are and how dear the investment is. And so how are we as an entity assuring a return on that investment and assuring that they are prepared for students? How do we meet statutory requirements for identification while also supporting meaningful improvement in preparation programs? This is the heart, this is the crux. And how do we ensure continuous improvement is grounded in evidence? Yes. And is shaped by faculty expertise and grounded in the lived experiences of candidates. So these are just some bigger questions that we came up with in order to take this law and to translate it into a human system. Of course, then we had to move to our theoretical foundations. So, what is the short list of resources that we are consulting to help us think about the dynamics? And the first thing, and this was something that this is Executive Director Sandy suggested and had some good thoughts about, was let's think about coherence, the right drivers. Think about how the decisions that we make about our identification and improvement system, really think about what sort of human actions those things generate in local contexts, right? What does the system sort of generate? And then also sort of, now we're thinking about, from the policy level going to the process, how do we structure a process that is authentic? And so for this, we look at an intersection between improvement science. And I think within the current state system of support and accountability, continuous improvement, the sort of the improvement science frame is widely adopted and applied. And it brings rigor. It really does. But sort of, going back to the time when we were, when I was an LCAP director and we were faced with a similar moment, we used to say, well, it's a lot of head, but there's not a lot of heart. And so where do we get the heart? The heart comes from human-centered design. And for reference, think of Stanford D School, think of IDEO, think of the Interaction Design Foundation. And this is really, this has already been mentioned, this is really putting the end user, the candidate, the person at the center of inquiry. And so in the wash of these three pieces, we have how are we structuring policy so it drives the right kind of behavior at the local level? I mean, many of us taught during NCLB, so I think we can perhaps remember what the wrong drivers might be. How do we then learn and put the right drivers in play? How do we adopt a practice that is both rigorous, but is also grounded in human experience of the thing itself? Not an approximation, not a big, deep abstraction, but the actual thing, grounded in the relationships that are producing what it's supposed to produce. And in this case, that is preparation to serve students in diverse settings. So right now we're having a great time already. And no initial model would be complete without a visual model. I think we all know that. We've read enough books and been to enough professional development training sessions. And by the way, this is all draft. This is all sort of a first kind of conception. Really just wanting to get this in front of you and to get your sort of reaction, your thoughts, hear from our community, and just learn, kind of share some of the excitement that we have around this with you, and then hear what you think. So how does this one work? At the center is continuous improvement. Right? So this is the center, the goal. And then the cycle that animates continuous improvement is sort of it is a modified PDSA, Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle, but it incorporates some of the design elements from human-centered design. And it starts with inquiry. And inquiry can encompass many things. It can encompass the examination of state-level data. Fine, it's great. It's a big, broad signal, but it's insufficient. From there, you need to supplement it with different sources of data. And then from the data to the actual evidence. And most importantly, as we're moving towards the design, the lived experiences of the human beings that are behind the data points. So what is the lived experience behind the data points that we're seeing? And that is where the fun of this system happens. So back to the example in San Juan, we were getting on city buses and talking with students in the morning on their commute. We were following them throughout their day. I mean, there's all sorts of wonderful ways to engage with your community around identifying root causes. This is deeply human work, and it's rigorous. So then you start to get an understanding of, all right, what are the challenges? What are the things, that we've looked at it from different human perspectives. We've examined it longitudinally with different data sources. What might be some things that we can deploy to address this issue or these issues? And that gets into the design phase. And if you've ever been in a room with educators and a whiteboard, maybe some snacks, this is also an incredibly fun thing to do. And the idea is that you're trying things, and you'll see that in what we're proposing here, or what we're putting on the table for discussion, is that this is a very iterative, creative process. So you're designing and then you're implementing in a way that is disciplined. You're measuring impact, you're thinking about minor modifications, and then I won't belabor it. But the idea is that this motion, right, starting to get a little, a little looser. The motion generates, it radiates quality, it radiates transparency, it radiates equity, and it radiates accountability. So those are, as there is movement, authentic engagement in this cycle, those are the sort of hopes for what is generated by them. And so now that you have suffered through my introduction to it, Dr. Drea.
Yeah, I know you did.
Dr. Wallner will walk us through some of the recommendations.
So what Adam presented to you was, the conceptual, the theoretical. I'm going to get into the practical. What does this actually look like? So we have 3 recommendations. The first of these is the adoption of TPA pass rate identification measures that would include 3 indicators that would be updated and reported to programs annually. The first of these indicators would be programs' first-time TPA pass rates. This indicator would be used as an early signal of the preparation program's effectiveness in preparing candidates. This kind of the theory behind that is if a program has high first attempt pass rates, it's doing a good job preparing its candidates. And so, yeah.
I believe on the PK-12 side, that's best first instruction.
Yes. So it would be the first time pass rate is the indicator that would be used for placing programs in a specific performance band. For programs that fall into the lower performance bands, this would trigger the requirement focused self-study, focused or mandatory engagement in that continuous improvement process with support from the commission. The next indicator, which would serve as a diagnostic indicator, is a program's second attempt pass rate. So this pass rate includes how many candidates pass the TPA by their second attempt. As such, it signals how effective the program is in providing immediate support to candidates who did not pass the TPA on their first attempt. A high second attempt pass rate demonstrates that the program was able to provide targeted, appropriate, timely remediation to support candidates in their revision and resubmission. This second attempt pass rate would be used in conjunction with the first attempt pass rates to inform how well the programs are supporting their candidates with those TPA submissions, and would inform the analysis of the program's support, quality, follow through, and equity of access. And then the final indicator, which would be provided for context, is the cumulative pass rate for programs, or across all attempts, what % of the candidates ultimately pass the TPA. It reflects the eventual completion of the TPA licensure requirement, but again, it doesn't get into how many attempts it actually takes candidates. This indicator would be reported publicly for the purposes of transparency, but would not be used for identification or intervention purposes.
This is the indicator that we've long reported.
Yes.
Yes. Part of the problem is, when we talk about cycles and we talk about sort of academic years, it is a lagging indicator that is always trying to catch up with itself.
Well, and it includes programs that have pass rates, a cumulative pass rate doesn't disaggregate between a program that has a 90% first-time pass rate and a program where candidates take 5 to 10 attempts to pass the TPA. So that's the problems with that cumulative pass rate. So then, recommendation 2 is the specific bands for those pass rates. As you can see here, or for those first-time pass rates, as you can see here, there are 3 proposed bands: meet standard, approaching standard, and below standard. So all programs with first-time pass rates at or above 85% would be placed in the meets standard band. This band demonstrates strong, consistent alignment between among program coursework, clinical practice, and the expectations of the TPA. Obviously, if 85%, at least 85% of your candidate are passing on the first time, this means that the candidates are demonstrating readiness, and that assessment preparation is effectively embedded across the program, and that all elements of a program are coherently supporting candidates to develop the necessary knowledge and skills to pass the TPA. The next band is the approaching standard. And this the range here is that 70 to 84% of the candidates are passing on their first attempt. So while most candidates are meeting the standard on the first attempt, a substantial number still are not. And so this suggests some variability in the alignment or consistency of preparation and support that the program provides. And so placement in this band would require engagement in focused self-study. Programs in this band would not be subject to formal identification for commission-supported improvement, but they are encouraged to use data as part of their ongoing continuous improvement and accreditation-related self-study.
I was just going to say, and you know, one of the things that we're seeing with the implementation of the 1263 interim actions, so with the elimination of the content-based condition codes, with the clarification of appropriate supports, we're seeing stronger first-time pass rates already. And so part of this is, and the other thing I want to add is that this band, the percentage would be, we would retain sort of the adjustability at the commission level. That would not just go off into regs and stay there forever. So that the commission can sort of look at the data, look at the programs and adjust as needed. And so just to say this is not a forever sort of proposal here. This is sort of an adjustable first starting point, given that we really don't know where programs are going to land in this next year. And then as we develop a new performance assessment, it's going to be even more different, but we still need to implement this part of the law.
So the levels would be stable, but the bands might change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so the final level, or the final band there is the final level, I said it right the first time, is the below standard. And this would be programs that have a less than 70%. Oh, you changed it to, aren't I in the first? Yeah, never mind. Okay.
Oh, I'm still back there.
Well, yeah, that's okay. This would be programs that have a less than 70% first time pass rate, which, you know, shows that lots of candidates are not passing on their first attempt. It points to systemic weakness in how candidate readiness and how candidates are being prepared. So this would warrant entry into a commission supported continuous improvement process, which I'll elaborate more on in just a moment. Go ahead. Okay, so the second attempt pass rates. These would be used only for programs identified based on their first attempt pass rate performance. The second attempt pass rates would serve to inform the nature, scope, and intensity of the continuous response. These would be calculated within the same academic year window as those initial attempts. So this would, you know, in order to maintain consistent with the statutory expectation that candidates receive timely, no-cost instructional supports for all administrations of the assessment. So really what this is looking at is, okay, if your candidates didn't pass, how effectively are you stepping in and supporting them with revising and resubmitting and then passing on that next attempt? So again, 3 bands. The highest band is that all of your candidates are, or 90% or more of your candidates are passing within 2 attempts. That's meeting the standard. That shows highly effective follow-through support. The next level is approaching the standard. This is 70 to 84% of your candidates are passing within 2 attempts. This shows that your follow-through is doing okay, but it probably needs strengthening. And then the final level is below standard. This is less than 70% of your candidates are not passing within 2 attempts. And that shows that there's some significant support system gaps and that commission support is required.
Can I ask a question before we move on? Could we look at the numbers in the band? Are we missing something?
Yeah, that's an error.
I mean, okay.
Oh, 70 to 89. Actually, I think it's supposed to be.
In the item.
89. Okay, thank you. Just checking.
80 to 89. No, that was wrong. So that was supposed to be less than 80%.
Apologies. Thank you for that. Real
Then
time.
80 to 89.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Apologies.
Okay, I think I'm ready for the next slide.
Okay.
So recommendation 3 is then the outline of this annual identification and continuous improvement cycle. So the general process for this is that annually, the commission would report pass rates for programs. Programs with the below standard first-time pass rates would be identified as needing to engage in the commission-supported continuous improvement process. And we're envisioning that this would happen in August of each year. Over those next few months, the identified programs would use a variety of state and local data and evidence sources to engage candidates, faculty, key program partners in identifying root causes, like seeing, where are our candidates struggling? I would suggest starting with that TPA data, looking where candidates are struggling, seeing where the alignment is between those areas and what's going on in the programs. And then identifying, okay, these are areas where we need to make improvements. Those programs would then develop an action plan for how they're going to address those areas for growth. They would submit those action plans to the commission by the end of that calendar year. But then they would begin implementing those action plans right away. The commission would review those action plans, provide feedback, step in and provide support as appropriate. So as programs implement those continuous improvement plans or those action plans, they would track their progress, continue to review their data, engage partners, again, with support from the commission. Then on an ongoing basis, that annual pass rate data would inform establishment of new plans, prompts for reflection, re-engagement. It does not trigger the development of a new plan. It's more like, how are you building on what you're already doing?
Things take time.
Yeah.
And so, if we think in the calendar, and we'll have a slide here, it's stated the state identification, the sort of looking at other state data and local data and conducting the empathy exercises, the engagement, and then identifying sort of things to put into practice. I mean, this is gonna move into the spring. And so by the time the second identification happens, really that's just more of an additional data point to say, all right, are we
doing?
Are we on the right track, or as opposed to cause to stop and redo the thing. So it is really continuous with inputs of state, local data and inquiry.
This just kind of outlines what that looks like over the course of a year. So August, the program would be notified, early fall, it'd be identified, and then during that fall period, they would engage in that inquiry, create those plans, receive feedback from commission, and then moving on, they would continue to implement those plans, track their progress, review data, ongoing. And then in the next year, again, programs would be notified, updated program identification, continued inquiry, and the cycle would keep going.
And I think the idea here is to separate year one and year two is two purposes. One is to show that, this is iterative. This is fundamentally iterative. It's not bound and then restarted. The second piece is that really we're thinking about year one as a systems-wide learning. We have a lot that we need to learn with regard to providing support for preparation programs in this way. This is pretty new for us. We have significant talent in Tasawi and in Drea to do the work. But we will also be learning alongside programs during the initial year, and then sort of do kind of a crawl, walk, run into year two and on.
Engaging in our own continuous improvement. So, recommendation. We recommend that the commission provide direction and feedback on the proposed TPA pass rate identification framework, including the proposed measures, the performance bands, and the annual identification and continuous improvement cycle. We also recommend that the commission direct staff to engage education partners and return to the commission with a refined plan in the form of draft regulations for further commission consideration and or adoption.
And just one more note on that. The reason why we moved from the conceptual to actual regulations is because it allows us to demonstrate the specificity of the proposal. There's obviously more time after that to iterate on that, but it allows us to kind of to be in a funnel where we're moving broad concepts, policy ideas into specific language that then can be the basis for specific feedback. But we're not there yet. We are still here in the divergent phase for your feedback and guidance. Thank you.
Okay, we will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to make a comment, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or by clicking the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom or pressing *9, participating by phone. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Melissa Valenzuela.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff, and thank you for the opportunity to provide comment. My name is Melissa Valenzuela-Stuckey, and I'm the Director of Research at EdTrust West. EdTrust West has submitted written comment in support of the proposed TPA pass rate identification framework and its grounding in continuous improvement. We appreciate the Commission's non-punitive orientation and the emphasis on program responsibility for candidate support, and we especially love the emphasis on complementing improvement science principles with human-centered design techniques. In that spirit, we want to take this opportunity to underscore the racial equity implications of this work. The framework recommendations have taken shape alongside the emerging multiple measures dashboard, about which more will be shared in subsequent agenda items. We believe that it is essential that data displayed in the dashboard be actionable for programs working to support educator candidates who reflect the diversity of our students. That will require the inclusion of disaggregated pass rate and program experience data by race and ethnicity within the public version of the dashboard. While we recognize that small N sizes may present some limitations, inclusion of these data for programs meeting minimum thresholds remains critical to ensure that disparities are not obscured. State-level measures used as comparative benchmarks within the dashboard should also be disaggregated by demographics. The field needs visibility into how candidates of color, especially Black, Latino, and Native American candidates, who have traditionally been disproportionately impacted by licensure exams, are experiencing these assessments statewide. We think that the great work being done on continuous improvement, exemplified by this framework, will be complemented by this careful attention to data. Thank you so much for your time and consideration and for your intentional approach to this important work.
Thank you. Yolanda Munoz. Come to the table and share your comment.
Hello, commissioners. My name is Yolanda Munoz. I'm a third grade teacher here on behalf of the California Teachers Association. We are pleased to see the proposed TPA pass rate identification framework outlined in this item. While our ultimate goal remains the elimination of the TPA altogether due to the significant barriers it creates, we support how this kind of public reporting creates transparency and accountability for how programs are supporting teacher candidates to pass the TPA. Something missing, though, from the report is the demographic information of the teacher candidates. We think including the information would support accountability and advance equity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve McDougall.
Political reported your action this morning regarding substitutes. They're fast. Okay, good afternoon. Steve McDougall with CFT, Union of Educators and Classified Professionals. And this work is pretty complex and it is well done. I want to thank staff for their efforts, and we got to witness a test drive yesterday after. I think it was yesterday. Feels like it was yesterday. It was yesterday afternoon. And we're finally getting something that we were hoping for. So that we can see how programs are getting it done or not. And maybe we can disaggregate why. It can improve. That's the goal. We don't need any barriers getting folks into the profession. So we are behind the curve there as it is anyway. Okay, so thank you for listening. I'll let you get back to your meeting. Thank you.
Doug Gephardt.
Adam, how you doing? Good to see you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll keep this short. Your day's running long. The Commission shall report the number of programs with low pass rates and assist these programs to use evidence-based strategies to support candidates to pass the assessment for all administrations of the assessment. Toward this end, AXA respectfully requests that the data collected from TPA clearly reflect the ethnicity and demographic of all those who do not pass the standard of the TPA by program to assist programs to better serve all students. Thank you.
Ursula Estrada Reveles.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It is my pleasure just to say a few words. I have to say I am thrilled about this because we all recognize that historically candidates have been punitively, they've been punished for not passing the TPAs. And when I say punished, I mean they're having to pay for extra courses. They're having to put off work for another semester to retake courses and whatnot. So I am absolutely thrilled about this because this is a step in the right direction. And so I just want to say kudos to both of you for doing such a great job on this. It's going to be a new day and a new season, and I'm excited for that. Thank you.
Jessica Sacco, can you please unmute your microphone for your comment?
Jessica Sacco, on behalf of Children Now. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I got unmuted. Wanted to say deep appreciation for the work taking place relative to this item. This is an important step forward in improving the overall administration and support for the TPAs, which is in our scheduling system. I would also like to align my comments with those from the caller from Education Trust West relative to presentation and sharing of data broken down by candidate demographics as well as by program. Thank you so much.
No additional requests for public comment.
Thank you. Turns. Yeah, the public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Erickson?
Will the secondary pass rate option still be available? Yes. And the students who pass using the secondary pass rate, are they considered part of the meeting standard band then? Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
They would be included.
thanks.
That is, it's their right in law. It's
Yeah.
it's still in there.
Yeah, they would still be considered passing.
Commissioner De La Torre?
Thank you. I had a question about the how many times within the year are students allowed to take the TPA? Is it only once a year?
Absolutely not. They can submit within each submission window a year. More than that. I can't remember. You can look up the actual number of submission windows.
So it is multiple times. Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay. So I was unsure about the time frame. Thank you.
Commissioner Simmons?
Okay, just because I was confused at first. If I have first time pass rate of 89%, I'm fine with that band. If my second time pass rate is still 89%, then I'm not okay. Because the idea is that at least for 1% of my candidates, I would be able to go through that second time. Am I saying that right?
You wouldn't be able to have that because your first time pass rate would be included in the second time pass rate. Right? Yeah. So because if
Second attempt.
the second attempt pass rate.
So if I'm 88 the first time, I'm good. If I'm 89 the second
sorry.
time,
So the second attempt pass rate is not used for identification. So it is more, the first attempt pass rate is the only pass rate that is used for identification.
Yeah.
The second attempt pass rate is really more of an intensifier. Or more context, and then sort of broadly the continuous or the cumulative pass rate is also context. But what we want to do is we applied bands to the second time pass rate and not applied bands to the second because we didn't thinking about the right drivers. We wanted to make sure that there were right drivers in the system in order to help candidates get through so that they're not missing employment cycles. And so, this creates a little bit of pressure or a little bit of a driver or a preparation program. Say, oh, we've got some that missed. Let's get them going. We got to get them moving. We're hiring in the fall. So that's kind of why that exists. It's just a little bit more. And part of this is also us starting to figure out our system of support. And we're going to need to do a differentiated approach. And so, this is also to help us understand, as an entity, whether this is somebody that is in need of a tier 1 or a tier 2 or a tier 3.
okay, and then I got a little confused on the calendar also. So in August, it comes up on the website that says, I have problems with not enough men are passing the TPA. I have between August and January to come up with my improvement plan, which then I would submit and implement in January. And then the commission would give me feedback when they do that.
We have a by March 1st.
Yeah.
Currently. I think in terms of when feedback must be given, part of the other thing that we're trying to judge is with the different scores and the different bands leads to caseload, leads to staffing. And so we're also sort of trying to keep that a little bit adjustable until we see where the new versions land.
And several constituency groups brought up the idea of having disaggregated data at the program level. And that is our vision.
Currently in the item, we have the idea as it is that identification happens for all students in a program or for numerically significant subgroups as well, which is current to how we are reporting our data, but not at the program level. So the identification would happen that way. The multiple measures dashboard, which is in development and it's very much being beta tested, and I don't want to exceed. It's June, right?
It's June. That's
So in June you'll be seeing a multiple measures dashboard. Am I ruining this? Sorry.
okay. Been brought up.
Okay, so in June that we're going to present, she's going to present a multiple measures dashboard that, really single test score driving a continuous improvement system is dangerous. We all know that. But the multiple measures will give the programs at a glance different indicators of their program health, throughput, surveys, all of the things that can sort of help them move from the big TPA trigger down to some So the comments that we heard from our partners, and which we will take absolutely as feedback, was about that dashboard, because we're doing some initial just user engagement around getting it right.
And then finally,
Wait. I think I got lost in the explanation a little bit. I'm sorry. Oh,
No, no.
am I out of order?
well, you're clarifying mine, so we got a little lost in the explanation.
So will there be disaggregated data at the program level that's accessible for programs to look at?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Is there going to be disaggregated demographic data accessible to the programs?
So
Mission at the program level?
yes. So, well, in the current design, it's not it is at the program level. It's not disaggregated by race at this state. But it sounds like that's a revision that we need to make.
Okay, and that would be not just available to the program, but also to consumers.
That's something that I think we'll need to get decided.
Well, I think this is you have arrived at the line, right? At the sort of the kind of the tension points that we would love direction in terms of how we navigate. Identification makes sense. You have the all and then subgroups, multiple measures dashboard, loud and clear. That definitely needs to include that data, because that's going to drive, different continuous improvement strategies based on what you see there.
Right.
In terms of sort of what is public, and what is for the program, there's questions around what we can even hold back, in terms of public records, but also, these are the areas where we're kind of hoping for direction and feedback.
I think another factor to consider there, at the program level, we may be getting to very small ends. And so disaggregation may not protect privacy of individual candidates. And so rolling that up to institutional level or statewide levels, in our public reporting, which is what we do already. Our public reporting does disaggregate, but it's rolled up to the state level. I think that's something we've been doing and would continue to do. But scores go to programs. Programs receive the results of their candidates. Am I correct about that? They do. So at the program level, the ability to disaggregate and understand kind of what impact is happening, or revealed by disaggregated categories, I think is going to be available. But when the state comes in and rolls that up and makes it possible to see at the program level, that's when it may become a public record. And that may be a problem if it's identifiable.
I think that
So we're going to have to work out these nuances, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
all of our schools on a K-12 level, we have those protections for low end of specific groups, and it seems to work just fine.
Yeah, we'll have to
So
work.
I think that we all, and in fact, the letter that was sent by Public Advocates, was it? Or Ed Chest West, it talked about protecting the privacy with low end situations. But I will say, as a candidate, if I find out that the University of Southern California at Boron, there is no such thing, has a 10% pass rate for men, as a man, I may not want to go there. So I think it's important for consumers to be able to identify what program is going to meet their needs best. Final question for me is, will this, in terms of disaggregation, is there any plan to do similar things with the Cal APA?
Well, currently in this draft dashboard, Cal APA results are also included. So if we're going to disaggregate, then for the TPA, we would also disaggregate.
Good, Commissioner Sim?
That-
Okay, Commissioner Erickson.
That was my question.
Oh,
But also, if you have, if your overall score meets standard, but you have one group who is approaching the standard. As a program, we'd be looking at that and seeing what are we doing, but does that trigger then a warning from the CTC? Not a warning, but that we'd have to do a follow-up?
In the middle band, it is still self-study. So
that we'd be looking at a disaggregated category, middle band doing a self-study.
With the program, and we don't, as our read of it is, we cannot influence that. We don't beyond the low pass rate designation as we read the statute. But we want people to know when you're getting close to it, like, and so there would be notification, but there's no enforcement beyond that. There will be, I mentioned the tier 2. So there will be sort of the similar tools available in terms of, resources for some improvement in inquiry and a recommendation that, hey, this would be a good thing to do. Hey, Ward, you've got a student group here that is not thriving to the same extent that a candidate group that is not thriving to the same extent as others. This would be a good chance to do some focused inquiry there and start to kind of head it off.
And this will be a required part of our self-study in the process.
I don't think we have it fully. It's not fully integrated into the accreditation system yet. Those are our next steps.
You will start to see items in the coming commission meetings that take this logic and start to sort of think about how it interacts with the accreditation system, with the idea of really just the differentiated piece of it. Like, how can we target our support to people who need most support? How can we, do those things? And the other thing is just in a general shift from compliance is important, right? We're state entity. There's nothing wrong with compliance, but the idea of how can we really promote living continuous improvement through all of these things.
And I have Chair Greno-Shire, and then after that, Commissioner De La Torre.
Commissioner De La Torre, you can go first, please.
We can't hear. You're on mute.
Thank you. Can you just confirm that the demographic data, it's still optional for candidates to release that data for the testing? Is that correct? So it's optional for them to release that data? It's not mandatory, is that correct?
It is optional. They do have the option to decline to state.
Correct. So they have the option to decline to state, and then so candidates do have that option to not state it or decline to state, or if they do release it, they can make it private as well. So the demographic data, they can list it and then make it private, or they can list it and then allow it to be public. Is that correct?
I need to double check on that.
Because I believe that's how it is with because I collect demographic data for National Board assessment, and those are the two options they have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greno-Shire?
Yes, if I might just go back to the beginning just for a moment. I want to first thank our staff for this amazing presentation. Very thorough, very comprehensive, very compelling. I appreciate how you introduced this item and showing us your background and, will I say, vulnerability around all that you presented today. I think it helps to explain your persistence and enthusiasm, and I appreciate both of you for that. I really, really appreciate the theoretical framework with which you began this discussion, and I think that's absolutely critical as a commission that our work is embedded in a framework that reflects our values. And so thank you for doing that. And thank you for centering the candidate at the very heart of this. I can see student liaison Morrison from where I'm sitting, and I think about him and his colleagues often when we talk about performance assessments. I heard loud and clear, and I heard from you also about that the developing data dashboards will get at the disaggregated data that this commission really is interested in, while at the same time protecting small institutions and therefore individual candidates from being identified. So I look forward to a refined plan sometime in the near future that reflects the feedback that you've heard today and the hard work that has been accomplished heretofore. So thank you very much.
Was that a motion, Chair Shire?
Yes.
Yes.
If you're ready for one.
Sure. So we have a motion. Is there a second? And then we can have discussion. Thank you, Commissioner De La Torre. Commissioner Palfrey.
So I'm back to the nitty details. So I am still a little bit confused on the below standard and approaching standard that brings you to the continuous improvement cycle. And if I'm reading right, it's only if you're in the below standard on your first attempt that you get into the, okay. So then my question is, how long? So let's assume that in the next time that I am assessed, and I'm not quite clear when that happens, once a year or something. Let's say I hired an incredible faculty member, a temp person came in and, you know, all our students passed. Am I out of the continuous improvement cycle? Or do I stay there for years because now this temp person? I'm just trying to think about, you know, things are boots on the ground, things are going to be very variable. So do we?
Below the line is shall.
Okay.
Above the line is should. All the way up into the meet stand.
So how long? When does that line? Do I stay in this continuous improvement cycle? 1 year?
With each annual identification, you either exit or drop in. But again, it doesn't, if you are already in and you're re-identified, it's just another data point in the ongoing plan. But even if you, let's say that you exit, move into the land of should, then that should be seen as confirmation to stay course, continue, you know.
Which is alignment with Common Standard 4 that you need to that, you know, Common Standard 4 says that programs need engaging in ongoing continuous. So this would just exit would come with that encouragement to continue that work.
Sorry, motion back.
No, fine. Any other discussion?
The first attempt, 85%, above 85% is the standard. If you have on first attempt 80%, this second attempt for at meet standard 90%, 30%. First one.
That second attempt, no, that includes those that passed on the first time. Because it's a cumulative second attempt, right? So that's saying of all of your candidates that took the TPA in this year, how or what percent passed within 2 attempts?
Within 2 attempts. Yeah. Okay, so that's maybe the label. It sounds like this is of the people who took a second attempt. What percentage of those passed? What it is?
That's what it sounds like. It sounded like to me that the second attempt was a different set of people.
Yeah.
And there's a different.
A subset of
different. Yeah, it's a subset. That's, if that isn't what you meant, then it's, I actually have a concern about that. Because it looks like there's a bunch of people that don't have to make a second attempt. And that's just fine. But if you take those people who already achieved it and stick them in the second attempt category, it's going to
skew those results.
Skew the data.
Yep, you're right. So I think it's to be asking that and for helping us clarify.
Okay, and then, I was just curious as to how you picked those. Should they seem kind of reasonable, but I didn't, is there some particular, it's or whatever pick the numbers or the.
It was knowing that the end that would land in there is in flux. It was a discussion with Executive Director Sandy, and then just a recollection of some of commissioner comments on items that did show distributions of first time pass rates. And then I think we started with the question of how started with the bottom. Below what number are we as a standard we're comfortable? You know, what is the floor? Is that
We haven't reached some number, then there's something needs to be. Fixed.
there's no method, there's no sort of methodology behind it.
Commissioner Simmons.
Because I was ready to vote yes and now. We're still going with the 85% you're cool for the first 8% of the whole for the second 10.
Percent of those who failed the first attempt.
Okay, because I don't think that works. And the reason is because anytime you have a first assessment and a second assessment, the second time you're going to have fewer people, you're going to have a lower rate. Because you've essentially, we're not supposed to say that, but you've
The other way to look at it, though, is that your second attempt people got some remediation, did some other things. They're ready to now take it again. They do fine.
if we go with these numbers, we're saying those second people will do better than the first group did.
We don't care if they did better. We just care that they did well.
Right, so it's 15%. If 85% passed on first, that's what it's the 50, I mean.
Yeah, essentially.
Just use
What
that.
percent of that
We're
50?
saying 90% of the 15%.
Right.
We're not gonna hit. That's not a realistic number. I don't.
This is part of what's messy about this is that it's focused on continuous improvement, not ultimate year in, year out.
Right.
And continuous improvement is really what we're about. And if programs are able to see how their folks who didn't pass first attempt, how they perform on a second attempt is going to be dependent on what kind of support is provided to help them get there. That's going to be a critical factor. And that becomes program quality that we'll be wanting to look at. Am I getting that right?
Historically, how we've reported those. It has been the first attempt, and then looking at the multiple attempts are cumulative. You know, it includes the first attempts when we're looking at this. That's historically how we've done things. That was the assumption going in. Also, we were hoping to put something in front of you so that we could get this kind of feedback and start to issue spot where the questions will be, because
Now I'm confused. Okay, there's 100 people who entered the program and took the test. And the first attempt, if they had 80% pass rate, that's 80% pass and 20. Right. And the second attempt pass, is that 90% of those 20 who failed? Or is that 90% of the whole 100? It's not all.
Well, and we've gone back and forth. So originally I said it was 90% of those whole 100. But now based on this conversation, then we shifted to 90% of those 20.
If they didn't do a second attempt, they didn't need to.
Right.
85%.
But I think
Fine, you got another 15% that are approaching the standard. All those guys go over.
Oh, I fear I'm losing control in my first time doing this. Commissioner Litt.
Let's see if I can help us.
Please.
Off to whatever. So as I'm reading the recommendation and the proposal on the table, we're directing the staff, first of all, appreciation for all the hard work and thought on this very first effort to bring something brand new to us, which is thoughtful and inspires lots of healthy and good conversation. you have a good read on where the puzzles and the sticking points might be and where refinement is necessary. We're not going to do that refinement at this table. That's pretty obvious. And it's also our work. So my hunch is that you have enough input and feedback about where we need some clarity and future action at the next path. With our confidence in the quality of your work, I would like to call the question.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Litt. So we have a motion on the floor from Chair Grenashire. We have a second from Commissioner De La Torre. Or, just to be clear, that the staff will develop a refined plan in the form of draft regulations for a future commission consideration after listening to all of our feedback and our discussion. Will the recording secretary call for the vote? Each member please respond with an aye, nay, or an abstain. Aye.
Jose Cardenas. Banku.
Aye.
Michael De La Torre.
Aye.
Peter Grenashire.
Aye.
Ira Litt.
Aye.
Ruben Mencius.
Aye.
Mandy Redfern.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Simpson. Huang Yusoff.
Aye.
Carries.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim and Dr. Walleitner, for that amazing conversation. And having no additional items, I adjourn the Educator Preparation Committee.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, don't go anywhere yet. I will now reconvene the general session and move to item 1H, new business. The bi-monthly agenda is presented for information. Next on the agenda is audience presentations. Please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raised hand icon if participating through Zoom or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
If,
Public presentation, I'm sorry.
Public comment.
Are there any audience presentations? Sorry.
I can't hear anything.
Nor can I.
Yeah, we try to,
Are there any audience presentations?
yes, we try to reach Dr. Wesley.
Okay.
Dr. Wesley, if you can hear us, can you unmute your microphone? Are you able to raise your hand? No, I don't.
We have no request for public or audience presentation.
Thank you. I will now recess the general session, and the general session will reconvene at 8:30 tomorrow morning. After roll call in the morning, members of the commission will go directly into closed session. Executive Director Sandy, is there any need for commission members to stay for a few minutes, or may we be adjourned?
Be adjourned.
Recess.
Recessed, you're recessing.
I'm sorry, not adjourned, recessing. Thank you. All right, colleagues, thank you for a very rich conversation again today. I will see everyone in the morning at 8:30. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we logging off until tomorrow?
We are.
Yes.
8:30.
I'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye, Mike.
Bye. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
To dinner, we're going to.